Hey everybody, and welcome to a St. Patrick's Day kind of pre-cook-along live. I'm going to be showing you how we can actually get away from using one of these, kind of a pre-packaged corned beef, which there's nothing wrong with these, by the way, although they do tend to be a little bit salty. And we're actually going to start with a beef brisket and make our own. So I've got a beef brisket here that I got from a local wholesaler, Costco, and we're going to trim this up and we're going to go ahead and brine it or corn it ourselves. I've got a bunch of herbs and spices over on one side. We've got this hunk of meat in front of us right here. And if we kind of take a look at the prepackaged corned beef, if we look at it kind of in a cross section, this is actually this lower part of the brisket. So if you kind of take a look underneath all that fat is where this meat is, and we're going to kind of separate that. We're actually going to have a lot more beef that we're going to be able to season and corn in this fashion. So anybody that I know in my family that wants some extra corned beef, let me know. I'll give you some fresh made corned beef. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with a large carving knife. So very large carving knife. I'm going to give this just a couple of honings, strokes on the honer. I don't know. I'm going to call them honings. Sounds kind of fun. And I'm going to kind of size this up. Now ours over here is about, I don't know, 8 to 10 inches. I'm actually going to go about halfway down my brisket here. Now if you want, you can actually keep half of this and just go ahead and smoke it. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds. Go ahead and just kind of give this a nice little cut in half. I'm going to show you the cross section real quick. There's one half, and there is the other half. Now the corned beef section is actually this part that runs right along the bottom of the beef down there. So let me go ahead and move this out of the way. I'm not doing any kind of camera work today. We're just doing the one camera. Now what I want to do is kind of take off all of this extra fat. We can see this nice fat cap down here. We're actually going to just kind of peel that off and remove it. I'm going to save all of the fat. I can make a beef stock out of it. And then what I want to do is separate this top half and trim off a lot of this extra fat here. And I guess I could actually make 2 corned beefs with those 2 halves and then smoke the rest of the brisket. So that might actually be what I do. I've got a large container over here with about 8 liters of water in it. About 7.5 liters of water in it. Doggo, calm down. And let's go ahead and get started with our trimming. So I'm going to go ahead and just start removing the fat gently. I don't want to remove too much, and I really don't want to remove a bunch of the meat. So what I'm going to do is take it off kind of in small sections until I get down to the actual meat. Just kind of trim off the excess fat here. Now I might speed up the film here, one of the wonders of not doing things live, because this will take a while. Now what we want to do is we're actually going to try and get this brining or corning just about 5 to 7 days before we're actually going to cook it. So today is Wednesday, actually, and so I'm going to, next Wednesday is St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to try and get this all brining so that by next Wednesday or next Tuesday, I'll be able to start cooking it, depending on the method that you employ. If you want to do sous vide, I think that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to start it on Tuesday and cook it overnight, 24 hours. If you want to just do the standard, 3-hour boil it the night of, you can absolutely do that as well. All right, so I want to pause here for just a second, slow the video down again, and just kind of talk about how the fat is running through my particular brisket. And I might actually switch to a carving knife, or not a carving knife, boning knife instead. Now, we can see that there's this flap of meat right here up on the top. And it's really only this little bit of meat right here. If I flip this kind of up, you'll see that the meat kind of runs right here, and the fat goes right underneath it. So this is really just a small flap of meat. I'm actually going to just kind of cut underneath it and remove. Let's see if I can get this knife through like that. And we're going to cut this little flap off. And we're just going to kind of cut. We're going to lift up and cut as close to this flap of meat as we can so that we get the meat off without cutting into any of the meat below it and without bringing up a bunch of meat. We're basically going to end up with what we can use almost as like a flap steak here. There's a little cut of meat. I'll set that over here. I've got a little tray that I'm putting some of my extras on. Now I've got these big hunks of fat over here that I'm also going to remove. So we're probably going to go back into speed up mode here. Now, if you've ever heard anybody talk about silver skin, I believe that's what we've kind of got going on right here. It's like a little membrane. This doesn't actually look like silver skin. It just looks like membrane. But what I'm going to try and do is use my little boning knife here to get just underneath this membrane and just trim as much of it off as I can. All right, so I've got most of the fat off of the top part of my brisket, so I'm going to flip it over now and just finish trimming off the bottom. You'll notice there's this giant little giant fat cap over here. Go ahead and get rid of that. And then all of these little pieces of fat. I'm not going to worry about the fat that kind of runs into the meat, just the stuff on the surface. There we go, nice trimmed brisket. Some of this stuff on this side, just going to kind of clean it up as much as I can. All right, so we've got our nice piece of brisket here, trimmed up. You'll notice that looks fairly similar to the cut that we have here in the prepackaged bag. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to build a little bit of a brine over here in our little bin of liquid. And I'm using a brine recipe that I found on chefsteps.com. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them. They are a big sous vide company. Well, I should say they're modernist chefs. They do a lot with sous vide. They do a lot with kind of more modern styles of cooking rather than the traditional things. Although they also have really good recipes for things that are kind of traditional. In this case, a great brine. So I'm just going to kind of read off the ingredients on that. We're going to start with about 255 grams of salt. And by about, I mean exactly 255 grams of salt. Then we're going to put in 140 grams of brown sugar. And we've got 85 grams of black pepper, 85 grams of coriander seed, 43 grams of mustard seed, 43 grams of dill seed, 43 grams of star anise, 14 grams of pink salt. I just found Himalayan salt. The pink salt has nitrates in it. So if you're watching for those in your diet, just know that they're there. You can omit the pink salt if you want. Although the pink salt does help with keeping the meat a brilliant red. So if we take a look at the corned beef in the package, it's a very, very bright red versus the corned beef that's on the cutting board, which is kind of a more normal meat color. The nitrites kind of help bring out that color. Go ahead and get this stirred and incorporated. We have a couple more spices to go. I'm just getting things mixed through before we get to them. And this is smelling very aromatic. Get some of that licorice smell from the anise seeds, from the mustard and the fennel and everything. Oof, it smells really good. We don't have any fennel. Just testing you. We do have some cloves. Let's see, I believe that was 14 grams of cloves. Nope, 7 grams of cloves. 7 grams of crushed red pepper or chili flakes. And 7 grams of, I've got powdered mace is what they call it, and it's actually the outside rind part of a nutmeg. Now, you can find these in whole strips. You can find them. I wasn't able to. So I'm just using ground. We'll see how it turns out. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's got kind of that nutmeg essence, but it also has a little bit of a citrus hint. So that's a little bit of fun. And then this is our brine. I'm just going to stir. If you've got a whisk, go ahead and whisk together. That's fine too. And what I really want to try and do is dissolve all of that salt and the sugar in this 8 liters of water. And then once I've got that ready, it really just comes down to putting the meat in and setting it in the fridge for 7 to 10 days. In this case, well, I should say 5 to 10 days. Your sweet spot is 7 to 10. So if you're doing this on Wednesday, then you've got your full 7 days. If you're doing it on Thursday, you can cut it down to 6 days. If you want to start your cook on Monday or Tuesday, if you're doing sous vide, you're going to basically be getting your minimum 5. And there we go. We'll go ahead and take our meat. We'll put it into our brine. Like so, and just make sure that it's kind of one layer. And it should kind of sink to the bottom like that. Maybe give it a little nudge with your spoon. Now, if your meat is floating, you can absolutely weigh it down with something. In fact, I recommend you weigh it down with something regardless, just so that it doesn't absorb some salt and decide that it wants to float. And now, every day for the next 7 days, I'm going to go out, pull this out of the fridge, give it a quick stir. I guess kind of maybe moving the meat around, but it's not super necessary. You're really just trying to make sure that the flavors of all of the herbs and stuff are getting mixed through the brine and not just settling. That's it. So this Sunday, Cook Along Live, we're going to be making a form of potatoes. I'm not sure yet whether we're doing scalloped potatoes or whether I just want to do like a nice fresh potato salad to go along with our corned beef on St. Patrick's Day. we are not going to actually have a corned beef for Sunday. It just takes too darn long to cook. So just kind of keep an eye out for that on Wednesday. But Sunday we will do a cook along live of one of the side dishes, and you'll get to kind of see how that comes together. And then Wednesday, not sure if we'll do a cook along live, or maybe Tuesday night I'll get this guy cooking, and then Wednesday we'll do the reveal and see kind of how it turns out. But if you've ever wanted to corn your own beef for St. Patrick's Day, this is how you go about it. The recipe's from Chef Steps, chefsteps.com. And if you're at all interested in sous vide, I highly recommend their equipment. I've been using it for years. Absolutely love it. It's perfect. And they've got a lot of really good recipes on their site as well. So anyway, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below. Feel free to throw me a subscription. So subscribe to my channel. Always love that. And if you want some updates on this, on how it's going between now and next week, follow me on Instagram and go and find my streaming page on Facebook. I'll be posting some pictures over there about the progress of my corned beef. And for those of you who are like, oh yeah, you probably trim this all the time, so it's probably easy for you, this is actually the first time that I've ever trimmed a brisket down to make corned beef. So you can do it too. All right, everybody, I'll see you at the next video, and I'll also see you this weekend on Sunday for another Cook Along Live. Talk to you soon. Bye.